Today we're going to be covering Bluebeam Review Studio Sessions. This is a introductory into Sessions and how it works. Studio Sessions was created in 2010. It is a real-time system for collaboration on PDFs. It empowers you and other collaborators to place markups securely while maintaining integrity about who placed these markups on the PDFs. My name is Michael Echave, and I'm AEC Technical Specialist here at ATG. And again, we'll be going over Studio Sessions. In the description about the course, we are going to be learning how Bluebeam Studio takes online collaboration to a new level. Review users can add markups to the same PDF together in real time using Studio Sessions. So individually, at any time while the session is active, all markups are actively checked or tracked in the record and are conveniently linked back to the session's PDFs. A built-in chat feature aids, and we'll show you how that works as well. I do have a separate user added on my iPad so that we can kind of show you how that all works, entails, and show you the features with it. So the learning objective of today's webinar, we are going to learn how to set up a new session. We are going to learn about session participants and record reports and closing out a studio session. Within each session or learning objective, we are going to have their own objectives themselves, and we'll go over that right now. So the first one we're going to be going over is starting up a new session, and within this lesson we're going to have objectives as well. We're going to learn about set up a new studio session, upload PDFs to a session during session creation. We're going to explain how to set permission and to restrict attendees by emails. We're also going to explain how to set a session expiration date if we wanted to do that, as well as invite others via email to join a studio session. For all of those today, we will be having some slides and switching back to a review demo. I do not believe in death by PowerPoint, so we will be going live into review and showing you how Studio Sessions is worked and applied in these. As well as for those users in here that are kind of new to review as a whole, I'll kind of give a little overview as well on the interface. So as we're going into this demo right now, I'm going to open up review. I have review open. And as we're kind of looking at review, we may see items in here that we don't know or we're not familiar with, right? So we have some options up here as well with drop downs within them. We have our toolbars, and then we have our panel access. So over here in our panel access, maybe we do not see the studio. The studio actually looks like a little studio house right here. And if you scroll over it, you'll see it. And let's say you guys are following along right now and you do not have that active. You can right click on your panel access over here. So I'm over here hovering in this area and I'm going to right click. And from here, I have this option to go and show. And from here, I can actually activate my studio so it actually populates on here or not have it. So I can either hide it or not have it or add it to it. You can also use the quick hotkey of Alt-C, sorry. As you can see over here, you have those options as well to kind of allow your access to it. So as I populate this out, let's say I didn't have a session ID or I didn't have a actual creation of one. You would go in here and you'd select sign in. And from here, you can actually create an account if you don't currently have an account or a Bluebeam ID. Again, this will send you an email and you can just confirm it. I did it a little bit earlier to sign up as a demo one. I didn't even need to confirm it originally. It just allowed me to go right into the session. But you can, of course, confirm it through your email. And within here, I actually have mine already set up. And I'm going to go and do my password here. And I'm going to keep me signed in. So now that I've signed in, I do have one actually active session. So if you guys were in here before, I had a webinar later, actually towards the end of last year, it was in December, I believe. I kind of went over what I did a webinar primarily on projects. So right over here to the left, so you have Studio as a whole, and then you have Studio projects or Studio sessions. So sessions is kind of like that chalkboard. I like to use that as what the image is. You know, the old chalkboard you used to write on, you can flip it over. It kind of looks like that image. And from here, you can actually go into here and create a new session if you wanted to, or you can, if you're added or invited to a session, you can go from here as well. So right here is the button that you can go and click add. So we're going to actually create a new session, kind of go over what that entails. And then you can also filter out if you had a ton of sessions that you were invited to or you've created yourself as the admin. So as I go through here, I can join a session from here, or I can click new session, and we're going to start a new session. And from here, we're going to actually start a new session. And from here, I'm going to put airport project. So and then from here, I can go in and say some other options here. Can I restrict attendees by email addresses? So am I going to restrict attendees only by email addresses? You can also do documents, allow you to upload or add files. So if I wanted to add some files here right now, I can totally do that as well. So if I wanted to go into some of my documents here and actually upload some files, I could do that as well. So I can go here and go to some sheets. Let's say I wanted to add a reference plan here. Open it up. So this session is going to be titled Airport Project. It's going to have one file. So it's going to have a second floor reference plan. And from here, I do have some options. So the permission setting, can they save as, print, markup, markup alerts? I do have that setting options, which allow you to set a global permissions for all attendees, right? So do you want all of the attendees to have these permissions? And of course, you can go in later and set up them as well, but this is more of just the overview when we're starting it as well. We're kind of at the beginning. You can also go from here and actually have a session expiration. Let's say if you wanted to set an expiration because there was a deadline and that invite or somebody that was allowed to go into the session would only have that time frame allowed for it. So it allows you to automatically finish sessions at a specific time and date. After the expiration, attendees will be blocked from entering the session. Helpful for design reviews where feedback is expected by a specific date. It also helps to control the comments that are made from the most recent revision. Though attendees cannot access expired sessions, the administrator can still access it to download final copies of the file, run reports, or reactivate the session if they wanted to. Let's say you had an expiration date and you were the admin and you wanted everyone to then come back to it at a later point. You can then re-invite people as well. For this session, we're going to actually have nothing selected from here, and I'm going to click OK. Checking my chat real quick. Nope, no questions so far. So as we're in here and my studio is finally loaded up, you can see the different interfaces that are kind of laid out on the left over here. So the actual invite was already populated up. I'm going to actually close it out to kind of give you guys an explanation of what's going on over here. So in this area over here, we have the studio panel that's from right here over. And this actually allows you to kind of go through and do some different settings. Below that, we actually have the attendees area. And then down here, we have the documents list. So what documents are actually listed in this session. And then below that, we actually have an activities list that has a record, notification, pending items if we were working offline. And then up here, we have the invite. So the invite was already populated when we started it, so we were allowed to invite attendees if we wanted to. So you can go through here and add them particular to email. If you conveniently have your address book set up, I do to Outlook, I can go through here and start emailing particulars if I wanted to and adding them to that address book. Right now, I'm not gonna add anybody, but if you wanted to, that'd be a way to do it. You can also have them, as we were starting there from earlier, you could add them from the session ID. If you want to just give them the session ID, they can go in and of course do that as well. So again, this is the interface that we have for studio sessions to kind of start up. You have the area up here, you have attendees, you have documents, and then you have the activities list. So again, we have the toolbar area, which gives us some options. We can go over here and add some additional settings if we wanted to, and we'll kind of go over that in a little bit. Does anyone have any questions so far? All right, let's hop back into our PowerPoint here. Next one, we're going to learn about session participation. And in this lesson objectives, we're going to have join a session. We're going to place markups on a PDF in a session. We're going to explain which participants are able to edit and mark up a file. We're going to state whether custom columns should be set up on a PDF before or after it is uploaded to a session. Explain the function of the record section in the sessions, and we're going to state whether view mode can be used to access sessions. So view mode in terms of us not having a license through Revu, and all we have is the view mode capabilities. So we're going to hop back into Revu. And from in here, Studio Sessions allows you to comment on a PDF in real time with project partners. So as I bring up this PDF here that I have, we're allowed to comment in real time, right? So we're eliminating the fact of having to meet in person and actually having more of a cloud-based collaboration, right? Studio Sessions. To enter the sessions, all they need is an invitation or the ID, right? So if I'm back over here and I wanted to leave here, I could also finish the session if I wanted to. I could also add into the session by joining it from the ID, or you as the admin can invite attendees, which we went over a little bit earlier. Right now I actually have one open, so I'm going to leave this session here. I'm not going to finish it, I'm actually going to leave it. Now I'm going to go and actually go into a different session that I had earlier that we're going to kind of use for collaboration and show you how that works. I was the admin on it. And within here, I can see my attendees. So I have a couple attendees, myself and then Joe Demo, who's going to be the attendee that's going to be marking up my PDF. And we're going to show in collaboration on kind of how that works and how that's laid out. So if you have Revu, including the 30-day free trial versions, after the 30-day free trial, so let's say I downloaded Revu, let's say on my iPad, and I had the 30-day free trial, full access of Revu, it turns into view mode. And within Revu mode, if I'm invited to a session, I still have the ability to mark up that PDF in collaboration within sessions, right? So in Studio Sessions, if I was invited to it and I had a free version, I could still mark up that PDF if I wanted to. So let's say if you had a contractor out in the field, or if you were contracting out with a different firm or a sub, and they did not have an actual paid version of Revu. They download the 30-day free trial just for this one project, and then you're going to use it on a different project. It would then turn into view mode after that 30 days. After that 30 days, if they're invited to a session, they can still mark up in the session, and that will still allow you to have a record report, see what markups are being made, and so on and so forth. Like right now, I'm actually having my iPad. So Joe Demo is on my iPad, and my iPad has the view mode. It has the free version of Revu, and it's past the 30 days of the trial, so it's just in view mode only. So again, down here, I see who the attendees are. I can follow this attendee if I wanted to see what markups they were being placed or being placed on the actual sheet that they were on. So let's kind of go over what's going to be happening. I'm going to go over to here. As you guys can see on my screen currently, I'm going to be placing a markup. And on my iPad, I'm actually going to have a markup placed. So 1 second. So as you see here, I'm placing this markup right here. I have yet to add any notation to it. And as I do it, I'm going to place webinar or web. And as you see it placed, it's giving me a notification that something was being placed. It's now added to the record report down here. So in my record report down here, it says Joe Demo. I joined the session. I was offline on my iPad. I connected to the web and I added an actual Cloud Plus. And then I edited the Cloud Plus and put web. So as you saw some stuff over here happening, I was also being placed the item over here. So markups can be edited and observed by all session participants in real time, right? So as I'm placing markups or someone else is placing markups, I'm visually seeing them in real time. No other participants, including the administrator, can edit another participant's markup. So that's accountability, right? So the integrity of my markups are being maintained. So Joe Demo, if I go over here and select Joe's markup, I can't manipulate it or anything. It's stuck, it's there. The only person that can make the changes to the actual markup are the person that actually placed that markup themselves. Even if I go over here to settings, I am not able to do anything within the settings. Everything's grayed out. I have no ability to actually change it. But me as Joe Demo on my iPad over here, if I select it and I wanted to actually change the properties of it, and I go and I change the lettering to, I don't know, magenta, and I change the outside to blue as well, I can see on my screen here, everything is being changed, right? And down in my record report, things are being changed as well. So it's maintaining the integrity of it. The only person that can change items in it are the actual person that placed that markup. So the integrity of the markup, the ownership gives users confidence that their markups and comments will not be edited by other attendees. Markup edits can only be made by the author of that markup. And again, in the record report down here below, everything is being allocated for those markups. They're being tracked. And the great thing about that as well is them being tracked if I wanted to go through and actually select where that markup was made. So earlier I made some markups, I joined the session, I added a Cloud Plus. I can actually select it in the record report area. And as I select that markup right here or item that was placed, I can go over here and I see that it is actually being placed or where it was placed on the actual PDF. Let's say if I had 150-page document and I wanted to go through and actually find where that one comment was made from the actual record report, I can go through there and check it from there as well. Not only with the record report, I do have the detailed markups list below. For those of us that have been using Revu, we know that everything or every markup has metadata associated to it, and as it's placed, it's being allocated to the markups list. And within the markups list, I can go down in here, and if, let's say, I just want to see a certain subject on a certain day, I see over here I have Joe Demo. That's me, right? My second one on my iPad. I can see that he's been placing comments. Hello, where is this? Of course, I can select them down here in the markups list and see how that's being allocated as well, or where they're being placed on the actual PDF, right? So not just only in here from the records report, I can also go down here to the markups list and see from the markups list as well where those items are being placed. I can also go in here and chat. Let's say I wanted to chat and add some items. Let's say door needs to be moved or something, or hey, Joe, check grid A and B, right? So as I'm in here, I can actually create a comment feature, which then can be reported or printed out earlier or later on. So Joe Demo across, let's say, not my iPad, let's say Joe's in another office somewhere and he wanted to see the chat function, he can then go in and see that ability and chat with me as well on items that are being placed or any issues that are being happening within the studio itself. So that added chat feature allows you to go in and chat with each other, even though you guys aren't in the same area. So let me go from Joe Demo. I'm on my iPad over here, and I'm going to say, checked, looks all right. So now as you see over here, some notifications, something's happening. Check, looks all right. So I was left the session because my iPad disconnected from the internet, or sorry, it went from standby mode. And when I opened it back up, it joined the session, and then I had check, looks all right. And let's say I was working on a session and I didn't have any internet connection. So up here on the top right, it can tell me if I'm connected to the internet or not. So if I was making changes, so I want to work offline, my attendees are offline, so Joe Demo, I'm myself's offline, but I wanted to make up some markups here. I can go in and place some markups. So as I place this markup, it's going to be pending. Why? Because it's not actually uploaded to the session unless I've been connected to the internet. So I can work offline all day. Let's say I'm out in the field, I don't have internet connection, and I was making some markups. You can, of course, make the markups. They're going to be pending. And as I'm in here, I'm actually reconnecting to the internet, and these are going to load back up into the record session. I'm back connected. I'm over here, and now my Cloud Plus was back and added to the record report itself. Now, the one thing about having studio sessions and having a PDF, you do lose the ability to have a custom columns list. For those of us that do know what this means is that we can add custom columns to our markups list. But within a studio session, we do not have that ability. So as you see here, I do not have the ability to create custom columns. So what you want to have done first is that custom column created in the actual PDF. So if I go down over here and let's go to, I don't know, some PDF that I have here. Let's go to this vector one. As I open this one up, sorry, the raster. And I go to the markups list here and I go to manage columns. I do have the ability to create custom columns, right? So as in the session over here, I do not have that ability. If I go back over here and I go to manage columns, I do not have it. So what you want to have done is the custom columns created prior, saved in as that PDF. And then when you open that PDF, you will have that ability to have that done as well in terms of it's already been saved there if you wanted to have custom columns. Any questions so far? So just remember, you lose the custom columns ability in the studio session. All right, let's go back to our PowerPoint over here. Next, we're going to talk about record reports. So as you saw a little bit earlier, I had some comments made. It was allocating for everything that I was placing on the document. So let's say my Cloud Plus, what I did to it when I joined the session, when I left the session. So you can create a PDF package report of the actual record. You can list the 3 types of record reports. Within the PDF package report, differentiate between the contents of the document folder and the PDF itself. So you have a record summary you can do that prints out the summary, and it'll append, of course, if we wanted to, the location of these. So if I had the document open and I wanted to actually go and see where that was appended to, this is kind of what the record summary would look like. Then you have the ability to do a records report. So that will be a PDF package report would be next if I want to do a PDF package report. And from here, it'll give you some documents as well as laying it out for those. And then it'll also give you the actual PDF of how that's working, right? So at any time during the session, you can export information related to the activity. So PDF package, along with hyperlinked versions of the record summary as we had before. So right here, we had the record summary. It would also give us that, but also the actual documents that were associated to it as well. And then you can also go through and combine file reports, which would be the next one. And combine file reports combines a copy of each of the documents in the session along with a hyperlinked version of the record summary in a single PDF. So now we're going to go right into review and show you how you would be able to do that. So as I'm here and I wanted to print out my reports just like I had over here, so I had this little drop down area for my markups list. I also have that same little area here for reports over here. Now within here, again, as we were talking about, you have the record summary, which provides just a PDF summary of all the information. Or I could select the PDF package report, which provides a copy of each of the documents in the session along with a hyperlinked version of the record summary and combines into a one PDF package. Or I could go down here and do combine file reports and combine a copy of each of the documents in the session along with a hyperlinked version of the record summary in a single PDF. For right now, I'm just going to do a PDF package report. And then I'm also going to do the title, the notes that I wanted, right? And I can include attendees list if I wanted to, include documents list. I also have some columns, right? If I wanted to filter out the columns that were already there. Again, I didn't create any custom columns because you can't do any custom columns. But if I had some already associated to the document, I could do that as well. So I'm going to hit OK. I'm actually going to go and save this over to here. 1 second. And I'm going to save this as number 2. Hit save. And now I have this PDF package report. So now I can go over here and double click on the documents if I wanted to. And now I can see which documents are here. I can also go back to home and I can see the report of the PDF. From here, I can go and actually select the report. And as I bring up the report, if I wanted to, it's actually going to automatically open it up. But I could go through and see my report as these are all hyperlinked and appended. I can actually go see where that was actually placed in the document, right? So I have that reference of going through. I can see everything that's been happening. It has a nice record of when it was placed, the date, what was changed, what document was changed. As these ones are used, you can tell I left the session, so it wasn't making any changes to the document. But we can go down here to see what we did a little bit earlier. So down here, disconnected, but over here, I added that Cloud Plus. Where did I add it? What document? What time was that actually added to? What time did we have our talk, right? So I said, Michael, go check out grid A and B. Joe Demo over here said, check, looks all right. Where was that made in the document here as well? What document did he have open? When were they chatting? So now that I've created a record report, I have a long-term running record of what comments were made, right? And maybe we don't have that in an actual live session where we're talking with each other. We're just marking up our PDFs. But within studio sessions, even when we're working long distances, we're having a record report that we could print out and actually attach to our documents at the end of the time. So this allows you to have that ability. And that will kind of conclude printing out record reports on what kind of was pertaining to the session itself. Anyone have any questions about that so far? 1 second, check the chat. There we go. Right now, I'm only working in one document, but if you had a full set, let's say, and they weren't branched out as single individual ones, they were a combined file, it would be the same scenario. I was asked, do I work in individual sets typically, or do I work in a full set, maybe a combined file? He was probably asking that has all sheets in one project, right? So let's say I didn't have floor plan 1, floor plan 2, right? Did I have a combined file? You can also work in a combined file as well. Back over to there. Now we're going to talk about closing out a studio session. So we're going to explain the difference between leaving a session versus finishing a session, which I was talking about a little earlier. I said I didn't want to finish it, I want to leave. Then we're going to talk about finish the studio session and save the session files. And we're also going to explain how to initiate a record report from the actual finished dialog box as well. Let's open review, and I'll kind of explain a little bit as well. As the administrator of a studio session, you can choose whether to leave or to finish your session when you are done. So I have the ability to up here to finish or leave my session. Leaving a session keeps the session active. It allows any attendees to continue working in a session, even though one or all attendees have left. Attendees may re-enter the session at any time as long as session remains active and unexpired. So if I were to just leave the session, I'm temporary just leaving the session. Finishing a session, though, on the other hand, closes out the session for everybody. So me as the admin is if I finish the session, any attendees in the session will be kicked out and no attendees will be able to re-enter the session. Also within there as well, after 120 days of a finished session, it will be permanently deleted from the server itself. After a session is permanently deleted from the server, it cannot be recovered, so be aware of that. So somebody asked, can a Bluebeam session be synced to a server or a network drive? So again, if I'm actually hosting this or having this document be a live document, it is actually being hosted within Bluebeam's server or being hosted by cloud. So where this file is saved, it's not in terms of what we're going to be having it. If we wanted to export it out or properties of where location is, right? This is going to be cached somewhere versus where I have it open, right? So my status is open. I have it saved here. Can it save? Can it print? Can it mark up? I have that ability. Where's the location? It's going to be on my user, OneDrive, desktop, and in that file, it's going to be up here into the studios. It's going to be at that location as well. So if I were to open that location, which I'm not going to do right now. We'll do it in a little bit, and we'll kind of talk through that process as well. And that was Michael. Okay, 1 second. Let's go back over to here and talk about finishing again. So 120 days if I finish the session itself. I have 120 days to reactivate if I want to, or it's going to be permanently deleted from the server. And again, after a session is permanently deleted from the server, it cannot be recovered. So demonstrate the leave function. Again, we're going to go through and demonstrate how we're going to leave the session if we wanted to leave it. I'm going to go over here and leave this session. I've left the session. And in my sessions report, it will say that I have left the session just like I did over here. So I would exit out of here, exit out of here. Now I have that ability to kind of go over here and decide which session I'm going to be going into. If I wanted to go into this one, I could, of course, go over to here, open this session up, or pick a new session or work connected. One second. For some reason, now let's say if I wanted to go in and finish this one, because we're going to finish this one that I started earlier, I'm going to go over here and select finish. And from this area, as I finish it, it has the project ID here. And do I want to include markups, right? So Michael Echave, I'm the only one in the session. If let's say if I had other ones and I didn't want to include the markups, I can go through here and select those. So include markup sections allows you to specify whether to include all the markups or those filtered to specific attendees if I wanted to. I can then save. So my save options down here, I can save options section allows you to choose from various options while saving the sessions file. And then down below, I have my report options, which allows you to generate a report. So let's say if you didn't generate a report in the middle of it, in the middle of your session, and you wanted to create it at the end, you can go through here and generate a report. And this is just telling me where my location is where I'm going to have this report being printed out to. And then you had that settings earlier, right, which we had, again, below when we had the chat functions, we were going to go through and actually select which ones we were going to have for it as well. For this one, I'm actually just going to do here. I didn't have any except for what's being placed here. I didn't place any comments or anything like that. Yes, everything looks good. I'm going to do landscape. That's fine with me. Where's the location going to be? I'm actually going to go through my documents. I'm going to go and check my webinar stuff. And I'm going to place it in here. And it's going to have the airport and then the project ID number. I'm going to hit save. I'm going to hit OK. And now I've left the session. I can, of course, go back over to here and go to my documents. And my webinar materials here. And now I can see that report here. So from in here, I had that same report that I had earlier for my other one. I have the documents where those are hosted or where they were stored. I have this reference plan here, which was living in that one document there. The question earlier was, would it live on my server? Would that run in any interference? I'd have to get back to you on that one, Michael. 1 second, let me write your name down. All right, so that is leaving a session, right? So we finished the session. The session no longer appears in my sessions list, as you guys are able to see over here on the left. So the session has closed and no attendees can be or re-enter. So the session has closed, access to the files and the markups remain available in the local saved session folder, so where it was saved and where I saved it. And now I can go through and see if I had any markups, right? And I've selected here, which I didn't have any markups saved to it, which would allow me to kind of go through and see where the markups were. I had the allocated list of what I had for those sessions as well. All right, so let's kind of go over a review here. So we went over setting up a new session and we talked about you were able to learn how to set up a new session, uploading PDFs if we wanted to, global permissions if we wanted to set certain permissions globally, benefits of setting up a session expiration date and how to invite others to the session as well. We didn't also go over the settings for it, but we can go back over and let me go into this demo session that I was in over here. And within here, if I wanted to add additional settings, I can go to my settings here and add and change permissions if I wanted to. So within here, I can do groups if I had groups associated to, let's say if I had contractor, and then I had MEP design, or architectural. If I want to set up certain permissions, maybe they have the ability to save as, can they print, can they markup alert as well. If I want to do any of the settings from there as well. And then I have the ability to add attendees from here if I wanted to restrict them. The thing about this as well, maybe you want to restrict attendees just by email, so then you don't have anyone that has the session ID that logs into it. But if you do have somebody entering in from the session ID, it's going to allow them to be pending and then you accept it. So like on my iPad, when I actually, before I signed in here, it had to accept the actual person that was pending that wanted to join it from my ID itself. So within here, you have the settings as well to kind of access that. And that was with the drop down menu here. I went over to settings from here. When I've selected it, that gives me these different options as well. Then we talked about live session participation. So students, so we were talking about participating and joining a session. So I showed on my iPad how I joined the session, made some comments. I was the only one that was able to change the comments versus someone else, whoever placing the markups, right? So talking about the integrity of the authorship, custom columns cannot be edited in a session, the function of the record section, and we talked about attendees do not need a license of copy of review to actually enter in a session, right, in review mode only. Record reports, so students learned 3 types of sessions in record reports. We also went over practicing creating a PDF package and the report of that. We also learned key differences and leave functions and the finish functions, right? So you can leave a session or you can finish a session. Finishing a session, of course, only if you're the admin. And then we talked about how to save files locally while closing them out or finishing them. Does anyone have any questions so far?